First off, thank you to everyone who has subscribed, and I really do appreciate the support as well. The purpose of this video is to add a few more additions to the Iceberg, as well as some general corrections and additional information. We'll start with the new allocations and then we'll move on to the corrections or additional information. The woods creature. This term refers to one of the names given to the creature that supposedly was in Shady Creeks or back or beyond. Bigfoot was commonly referred to as the woods creature as well. The reason why it was called the woods creature is due to the environment containing a lot of trees, and so hence the term. Unfortunately, it does not exist. Catalina Graves. Next to Catalina's house there are some graves with a shovel nearby. This pretty much is suggested to be Catalina's past victims, considering her personality. Shadow people. I've not heard of this one before. According to this comment, if you get rid of all the pedestrians and cars, you can supposedly see shadows of people still moving around. But from what I've researched, I couldn't find any evidence of it being true, and even then I don't think this is likely to be true either. Super bright sun. I couldn't find anything about this one. It may just be a glitch potentially, or maybe just misremembering how bright the sun is, or it could be due to the TV or monitor you might have been playing the game on back then. Either way, I haven't really experienced any odd behaviors with the sun like this. Red fog. This was definitely an interesting one. I've heard of this one before, but never tried to replicate it until now. Essentially, if you're in the desert while it's stormy and the time is about 1930, you'll start to see a red tint to the sky. I then moved out of this area quickly using the flying cars sheet, and the red tint / glow to the sky got darker and it stays for a short while. The sky has this colouring on it until it gets close to about 23:30 or so, where it pretty much dissipates. Chiliad screaming. With this myth, it's suggested that you can hear screams of pedestrians every now and then. From what I read, some people suggested that pedestrians could spawn on Mount Chiliad, and then they fall to their deaths as they don't have any proper coded paths on the mountain, and they try to go to the nearest road. However, I didn't encounter any voices of falling pedestrians at any point whilst I was going around Mount Chiliad. I don't think there's any sort of natural pedestrian spawns either on the mountain. The only thing I could find is a car that can spawn which has a pedestrian in it, and potentially in a rare case you could have the pedestrian crash in his car, then the pedestrian could exit the vehicle and maybe run off the side of a cliff. But personally I can't really confirm or deny this myth. A myth in which a spy for Torino supposedly stalks you or watches you from a distance. This myth was most prevalent in the Shady Creeks area, back or beyond area, or the desert area. This is false. Gulf Patch / El Parche Gulf. I've never heard of this one before prior to reading this comment. I had a look into it and it's essentially a creepypasta. A creepypasta is a story that's made up and it's meant to be scary or instill some form of horror into you. I'll quickly summarize this creepypasta. It talks about how there's mods for GTA San Andreas, then it talks about how there's a supposed famous mod called Gulf Patch, which added missions and a lot of which were references to 4chan. However, there's a rare chance that some of these missions would task you to kill people in-game that had actual names instead of generic enemies like ballers or Italian mobsters. These names would end up being the names of missing people. Then the creator never responded to anything and the mod became lost and no one talks about the Gulf Patch mod. That's the entire premise of this creepypasta, and creepypastas are pretty much fake anyway. Now we'll move on to the corrections or additional information. I forgot to also mention that Bigfoot is also present in Undead Nightmare as well, and this time it's an actual Bigfoot. You end up wiping out the Bigfoots as part of a mission in the game. As pointed out by some comments, there's actually an impound function in game which I was not aware of. However, it does seem to be a bit of a hit and miss though, as your vehicles don't always seem to be impounded, and I wasn't able to get my vehicle impounded at any point. Also, the mass grave area was shown in the introduction cutscene of GTA San Andreas when some Italian mobsters are dumping bodies, so the bodies are pretty much likely to be from them. Apparently the moving UFOs in the sky are called UFO lights in the in-game files. I'm not able to check this myself, but it does make sense and it's likely to be true anyway. So in regards to the weird house entry in Los Santos, the house is actually based on the real life location in California and it looks pretty much spot on. Los Santos is based on Los Angeles too, and this pretty much confirms why the building is there, as the building itself is a reference to the real life location, which is called House of Blues Club. I just wanted to make this second video just to cover these few points really, and I won't be making any further additions as I feel that I've covered everything that I set to originally cover. Thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, please subscribe.